Imagine being trapped in the middle of nowhere, with no phone signal, no one around, and your arm pinned under a massive boulder. No matter how hard you push, scream, or pray, the rock doesn't move. Hours turn into days. Thirst burns your throat. The desert sun scorches by day, and the freezing winds cut by night. You realize no one is coming. Your only hope of survival is to do the unthinkable. This isn't a movie. This is the real-life story of Aaron Ralston, a man who faced the ultimate test of human willpower and made a choice that still shocks the world today. But how did he even get there? And what drove him into such isolation in the first place? Aron Ralston wasn't just an ordinary hiker. Born in 1975 in Ohio and raised in Colorado, he grew up with a passion for the outdoors. From a young age, he was drawn to the mountains, rivers, and canyons that many would consider dangerous, but for him, they were home. He studied mechanical engineering, but deep down, his heart belonged in nature. By his late 20s, Aaron was living life with an adventurous spirit that most people only dream of. He left a stable job at Intel to pursue his love for mountaineering and outdoor exploration full-time. Friends called him fearless, sometimes reckless, but he had an unshakable confidence in his abilities. He was the kind of guy who climbed peaks alone, skied untouched slopes, and ventured into the wilderness without hesitation. But here's the thing. Aaron had one habit that would come back to haunt him. He rarely told anyone where he was going. He believed in self-reliance so strongly that he often hiked solo, without leaving a trace of his plans. To him, it was freedom. To others, it was dangerous. On April 25th, 2003, Aaron set out for an adventure in Utah's Canyonlands National Park. His destination was the Blue John Canyon, a remote slot canyon with narrow passages and towering sandstone walls. He packed light, some climbing gear, a small amount of food, and a bottle of water. He didn't tell a single person where he was going. For Aaron, this was just another day in the wild, the kind of trip he had done countless times before. The desert stretched endlessly under the blazing sun, painting a picture of beauty and solitude. He biked the rugged trails, then hiked deeper into the canyon. Every step echoed with silence. He was completely alone, and he loved it. But what Aaron didn't know was that this trip would soon turn into a nightmare. In just a few hours, he would find himself trapped in one of the most terrifying survival ordeals in history. The desert morning was crisp, the kind of silence that makes you feel like the world belongs to you alone. Aaron moved swiftly, his bike rattling along the rocky trail before he stashed it at the entrance of Blue John Canyon. From here, the real journey began. Tight slot canyons that twisted like veins through the earth. Walls so high they blocked out the sun, leaving only slivers of light cutting through the darkness. For Aaron, this wasn't intimidating. It was exhilarating. The sandstone walls were smooth, polished by centuries of water and wind. The canyon narrowed until it was barely wider than his shoulders. Sometimes he had to turn sideways to slip through. Other times, he'd scramble up boulders wedged between the walls, using his climbing skills to move with precision. Every move felt natural. This was his world. His breath echoed against the walls, the scrape of boots against stone the only soundtrack. He was in his element, confident, focused, and free. But canyons are deceptive. One wrong step, one unlucky slip, and they become deadly traps. By early afternoon, Aaron reached a drop-off, about an 8-foot descent into a narrow passage. Wedged in the gap above was a large boulder, balanced precariously between the canyon walls. To most people, it might have looked dangerous, but to Aaron, it looked like a challenge, maybe even fun. He had crossed obstacles like this countless times before, with his hands gripping the rock and feet pressing against the walls. He began lowering himself down, and then everything changed. As he shifted his weight, the boulder that had rested silently for centuries shifted with him. At first, it was just a faint scrape, a whisper of stone on stone. Then, in an instant, gravity took over. The massive rock broke free. Aaron tried to leap out of the way, but it was too late. The boulder, weighing over 800 pounds, slammed downward. He threw his hands up instinctively, trying to block it. That's when he felt the crushing blow. The boulder smashed into his right arm, pinning it violently against the canyon wall. The impact sent a shockwave of pain through his body. White-hot, blinding agony. His scream echoed through the canyon, swallowed almost instantly by the silence. He tugged, he pulled, he twisted. Nothing. His arm was stuck, completely trapped between the immovable wall and the immovable stone. He pushed with his legs, trying to shove the boulder off, but it didn't budge. It was like trying to move a mountain. In that single second, his life changed forever. Aaron gasped for breath, sweat pouring down his face. He tried to think, stay calm. He had been in tight spots before. Maybe he could wiggle free. Maybe if he adjusted his grip, he could pull his arm out. Minutes turned into an hour, each failed attempt draining his energy and his hope. The reality hit him. He wasn't just stuck. He was trapped, and no one knew where he was. As the hours passed, Aaron's mind raced. He had water, but not much. Just 350 milliliters, barely enough for a day in the scorching desert. A couple of burritos, some tools, a headlamp, and a video camera. That was it. He tried using his climbing rope as leverage, pulling with every ounce of strength he had. The boulder didn't move. He chipped at it with his multi-tool, sparks flying, but the stone barely showed a scratch. It was hopeless. The sun moved overhead, and shadows crawled across the canyon. Aaron's body ached from standing in the same position, his legs trembling from exhaustion. The pain in his arm was unbearable, throbbing, crushing, relentless. He screamed again, but the canyon answered only with silence. That night, the temperature plummeted. The desert turned from oven to freezer in a matter of hours. Aaron shivered uncontrollably, pressing his body against the rock for warmth. Sleep was impossible. Every time his eyes closed, pain ripped him awake. He stared into the darkness, listening to the eerie stillness of the canyon. By the next morning, desperation set in. He pulled out his video camera and began recording messages to his family. His voice cracked as he spoke, telling them how much he loved them, apologizing for not being more careful, for not saying where he was going. He still hoped he might survive, but deep down, he knew the truth. If he didn't find a way out, these recordings would be his last words. Aaron tried everything. He shifted his weight again and again, bruising his hip and legs in the process. He drank tiny sips of water, rationing every drop. He even tried chipping away at the rock around his arm, but it was like carving into steel with a spoon. His multi-tool blade dulled quickly, leaving him with little more than a blunt edge. Hours turned into days. His food was gone, his water nearly empty. The sun blazed above, dehydrating him faster than he could conserve. At night, the cold gnawed at his bones, and still, his arm remained trapped. It was here, in this silent tomb of stone, that Aaron realized the canyon wasn't just holding him, it was testing him. And if he didn't act soon, he would die right there, standing in the same spot where the boulder had claimed him. By the fourth day, Aaron's body was weak and his spirit was fraying. He had long run out of food, his water was nearly gone, his lips cracked, his voice raspy. The desert heat by day baked him, and the canyon's chill by night cut deep into his bones. But what tortured him most wasn't just the pain in his arm, it was the clock. He knew every second that passed was one step closer to death. Aaron tried everything. He carved into the stone wall with his multi-tool, recording the days. He even etched his name, date of birth, and what he thought might be his final message to his family. His heart sank with each line carved. Was this how his story would end? To keep his mind alive, he started filming himself with his camcorder. He spoke to his parents, his sister, his friends, telling them how much he loved them. It was heartbreaking, but also gave him a strange kind of strength. He wasn't just talking to a camera, he was talking to hope. By day 5, his body began shutting down. He hallucinated, visions of a young boy running toward him, playing in the sunshine, a son he didn't yet have, a family he dreamed of but hadn't built. This vision wasn't just a mirage, it was a promise of the life still waiting for him, if only he could find a way out. And then came the turning point. Aaron realized something that changed everything. The boulder wasn't crushing his arm, it was trapping him. His bones had weakened, his flesh had already begun dying. In a horrifying moment of clarity, he understood the only way forward was to leave a part of himself behind. This wasn't just survival, it was sacrifice. He looked at his dull multi-tool knife, then back at his arm. The thought alone was unbearable, but the choice was simple. Stay and die, or fight and live. It was the moment his entire life balanced on the edge. Trapped for nearly 6 endless days, Aaron's body grew weaker by the hour. His water ran out, and food was nothing more than scraps. The crushing silence of the canyon was only broken by the sound of his own heartbeat, slow, heavy, reminding him time was slipping away. Hallucinations crept in. He saw his family, friends, and even visions of a future son he might never meet. These weren't just dreams, they were lifelines, pulling him back from surrender. Every second was agony. His right hand was turning cold, lifeless. Infection and death loomed close, and then came the unthinkable choice, to live. Aaron had to sacrifice a part of himself, a decision most of us can't even imagine making. With nothing left to lose, Aaron performed the unthinkable. It was raw, it was brutal, but it was survival. Once free, bleeding and weak, he still had a climb ahead, rappelling down a 65-foot cliff with just one arm. His body screamed in pain, but his mind was locked on one thought: I can't die here. After hours of stumbling through the desert, dehydrated and barely conscious, Aaron finally encountered a family of hikers. They didn't just find him, they saved him. A helicopter rescue soon followed, pulling him out of that canyon and into a second chance at life. Aaron's story is more than survival. It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit. He lost an arm, but gained a lifetime of purpose. He became a symbol of resilience, proving that even when everything is stripped away, The will to live can carry us through the darkest moments. His message is clear. We are capable of so much more than we believe, even in our weakest hour. Now let me ask you, if you were trapped alone, cut off from the world, with no way out, what would you do? Could you make the same sacrifice Aaron did to survive? Or would you accept fate and give up?
Thank you for watching. If this video didn't waste your valuable time or added any value to your life, even just a little, please consider subscribing to Hello Stories. Until next time, goodbye, warriors.